Welcome to Your Yes Build Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle and I'm really glad you're here. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad that you have decided to give this podcast a try. And if you've been listening for a while, thank you so much for listening. My goal is to really lead you into a more deeply embodied personal empowerment where you can step into your own power to create the life that you dream of. Why? Because here's the thing. When you step into your power, you permission everyone in your ecosystem to do the same. And the more people we have embodying their own empowerment, the more healing our entire humanity will experience. Because guess what? Empowered people make empowered choices. And they make choices for the good of all because they're feeling more resourced. So thank you so much for being here. You know, the most helpful thing you could do the podcast, if you so choose, would be to click that little follow or subscribe button right at the top. So in this episode, I've been promising I'm going to be telling you about the 5 things I learned from dancing in an Arthur Murray dance showcase where I danced salsa, bachata, and nightclub two-step. So before I tell you about that, let me set the stage. So yesterday, I'm recording on February 26th. Yesterday was my birthday on February 25th, and I turned 51. Last year on my birthday, I went to Bali and I went to a beautiful retreat. I did some solo travel at the front end and the back end of the retreat. And I was really reflecting on what it felt like to be 50. And when I came back, I had the recognition that I still love travel. I mean, travel's kind of in my blood. I love, love, love it. But I also wanted to more deeply understand myself and I wanted to do something really fun. I've always loved dance. I have taken dance lessons off and on since I was a little kid. I took tap and ballet when I was little and I loved it. Um, this is going to definitely age me, but I've already revealed my age. So I mean, I guess that's okay. Do you remember the show Fame? It was from the 1980s. It was on like every Saturday night. Anyway, there was this theme song from Fame. We're gonna live forever. Do you remember that one? Anyway, I remember taking dance lessons as a kid, probably a tween. Maybe I was 11 or 12. And I remember dancing in this sequined vest with tails and my little dance leotard to that song. Anyway, you get the drift. I remember that. And I just remember the feeling of dancing and the way it just made me feel like anything is possible. And to me, that's what I feel like every single time I dance, which is why it's so energy rich for me. It doesn't matter if I'm dancing like tap or ballet, which I haven't done in decades, but I took up hip hop dancing when I was living in Boise, and I would dance with an organization called ULA. OULA, ULA from Missoula. And it was a cardio dance fitness that came from Missoula, and it was so fun, and it's a big part of the community that I was a part of in Boise when I lived there. And when I moved to the Portland area, I knew I wanted to get into dance, but I didn't quite know what that would look like. There's not ULA here. I know there's other kinds of dance fitness, but for whatever reason, it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. So when I came back from Bali and I thought to myself, I want to do something I've never done, but that I've always wanted to do. And I knew for me, it was going to connect to dance. But I thought to myself, what is it that I've never done, but I wanted to do? And salsa dancing kept coming up. And I thought to myself, okay, I know I want to salsa dance, but like, how does one just go salsa dance? How does one just like go to a club by myself and learn to salsa dance and hope that somebody on the dance floor is willing to teach me? I mean, that is one way that you could go and I know that there are people who do that. To me, that was a little bit, it didn't feel good to my nervous system. It felt like I didn't wanna go to a club by myself. I didn't wanna rely on somebody's kindness to teach me. I really wanted to take responsibility for my own learning and my own journey, and so I started researching salsa dance lessons. And I started to research some things and I found group lessons and I was like, yeah, that'd be okay. But I was noticing that I felt self-conscious because I wanted to be really good. And I felt like if I went to a group lesson, I would be competing with other people in the group. I'd be measuring myself against them. I'd be comparing them. And I thought, that is not going to be good for me. So, what's another alternative? Is there such a thing as private salsa dance lessons? Well, come to find out, there is. So, if you have an Arthur Murray dance studio near you, you can learn 52 kinds of dance that they offer at Arthur Murray. So, I was very nervous and I I was sort of like, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? Call them and I made an appointment. I was going to go in for an introductory dance lesson. I think it was like it was a really steeply discounted dance lesson, like $20 or something. And I was so excited, but I was also nervous. And so then I drove to the place, I thought, and I got there and I was like, wait a minute. What was the name of the place I signed up to go? And I signed up to go to the Arthur Murray dance studio. That was not where I went. I ended up at a Fred Astaire studio in Beaverton. So I was like, okay, wait. Oh, there's two. Okay, well, what one do I wanna go to? So I called the studio that I thought I had booked and come to find out I booked a different one. I booked Arthur Murray. So I called them and I said where I was, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not gonna make it today. Why don't you reschedule?" So then I rescheduled for like a month out because now I'm feeling self-conscious and embarrassed because I blew off the first dance lesson. So, this is a really good story I'm telling on myself how we can get in our own way. We can create resistance around the things we want to do with these little tiny ways that we self-sabotage ourselves. And these aren't really tiny ways, are they? I mean, I did not get to that dance lesson. So that was, probably in the beginning of April. Well, at the end of April, I went to a retreat and I met in person my friend Lynn Min, who's been on this podcast. Lynn dances bachata. She has a dance troupe that she's a part of in New York City. And she was telling me about it. And I thought to myself, ooh, I really want to dance bachata. So now I have two things in my mind, right? I have salsa and I have bachata. So I went to my first dance lesson and I met my teacher. His name is Dior. And he asked me what I wanted to learn. And I said, I want to learn salsa and bachata. And so, we had this first dance lesson. And I remember thinking to myself, I've danced in clubs before. Like I went to the salsa night, the Boise Cafe, and did the free dance lessons. And I went out with my girlfriends a few times and danced salsa with them. So dance salsa is in big air quotes. I danced with them while they were dancing salsa. Let's put it that way. I don't think I actually danced the salsa, but my heart was there. I really wanted to, but I didn't have the skills or the knowledge. So anyway, we get done with this dance lesson and I had the awareness that I literally don't know the first thing about dancing salsa. Like, I kind of knew just by observing how to move your body, but I didn't know the steps. I didn't know the hand positions. I really didn't know. So then my teacher at the end of the lesson asked me if I might be interested in learning 3 kinds of dances. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I want to learn salsa and bachata. And then he kept saying, well, what else do you want to learn? And I said, I don't know. What I want to learn to dance for is to meet people. I want to be able to go out and dance and meet people and just, be a part of the dance scene and have it be social so that if I was going to a club, it would not be about alcohol, it could be about something else. And so he said, well, there's a kind of dance that's very popular here called nightclub two step. Maybe that would be the thing. And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds great. I don't know what that is, but yes, I am in. So I signed up for 4 basic lessons and I learned the basic steps for those 3 dance steps, those dance styles. And they are very different from each other. And I was having a lot of fun and they were willing to accommodate my travel schedule. And so at the end of my 4th lesson, they invited me into the bronze program. And the bronze program is like their introductory program. And there's a really laid out curriculum where they know exactly how to teach you so that you kind of build upon your skills. And it's really cool. So I signed up for the bronze program in August of 2023. And I had so much fun. I kept it kind of secret. I mean, I talked about it a little bit, but I never posted anything about it. I never took video or pictures of it. There was a couple times that I would share stories that I was coming or going from my dance lesson, but that was it. And then one day I went into my dance lesson. It was like in December, and my dance teacher said, so, we have the showcase coming up in February, and I signed you up for it. And he said, there's a lot of people there. There's a great dinner and there's some dancing. It's really fun. It's a good way for you to meet people. Do you want to do it? And the first thing that happened was I felt it in my nervous system, like sort of this, ooh, I'm scared. I feel nervous about this. And I was at my dance lesson dancing after he'd asked about this. And I realized if I don't say yes to this, I'm going to regret it because I'm going to wonder what would actually happen if I gave myself permission to work towards the thing that I actually signed up to do. So I said, you know what? Sign me up. And he was thrilled, out of this world, thrilled, so excited. So I registered for 14 dance entries. I think 4 of them were nightclub two step, 5 for bachata, and 5 for salsa. And I kept asking questions about Showcase, not totally understanding what it was. So I went to my very first Showcase on February 17th. And let me tell you, it blew my mind. It exceeded every single expectation I had. And there were 5 things that I learned from dancing salsa, bachata, and nightclub two step at this dance showcase that I really wanted to share with you because this was like a pivotal event. Do you know those times where you just know that you're going to look at life differently after this event? Has that ever happened to you? It happens to me once in a while where I'll be like, "Oh, I know that this was one of those events that there's going to be a before this event and an after this event in my mind." And this showcase was that big for me. So here were the here's a little bit of the layout. We went to this beautiful Holiday Inn on the Columbia River in Portland, and there was this enormous ballroom, and there was a huge dance floor in the middle of the ballroom, and at the front of the ballroom was a raised table up on a stage with all the judges. And I don't remember exactly how many judges there were, but there were probably 8 or 10 judges, and then there was an MC who was announcing which dance it was. And there was a television on the side of the stage that let you know which heat number you were in. Now, the first heat that I was going to dance was 117. So 117. So my first question to Dior was, does it start at 0 or does it start at 100? Like, how does this work? And he said, oh, no, it starts at 0. And I was like, oh my gosh. That means that if my first heat is in 117, that I'm going to be watching 116 heats before I dance. And so I was really relieved that I was gonna get to feel the lay of the land before I dance, and also a little overwhelmed because I was like, 116 heats before I dance? Like, what is that gonna feel like? Well, it turns out that the heats are between 60 and 90 seconds each, and they have some with dance styles that are the same, and sometimes they switch around. So, like, maybe there'll be a heat for cha-cha, and then there's a heat for nightclub two-step, and then there's a heat for salsa or bachata or rumba or merengue or the tango or the Argentinian tango, which come to find out is different than tango. And then they had all of these other things, like this whole country arm of dancing that a lot of the things I hadn't heard of before, versions of swing and different things like that. It was so fun, and I could feel my system changing as I as I, like, got acclimated, and then my teacher asked me if I wanted to dance during one of the social dance times, and I felt my feet on the floor in my brand new dance shoes, which I got from the dance store just a week ago. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. It was so fun. And I was noticing the difference in my dance shoes, how easily they moved and turned on the floor. And it was so fun. It was so fun to be in that energy, to be dancing around with everybody. And it was just high vibe, very positive, very energized. Everyone was smiling. It was amazing. And this was even before I danced my heats. So, after I danced my heats, and I danced all 14 of them through the end of the night, and then after my heats came the actual competition. See, I'm so new that I'm not gonna compete with anybody. I'm just going to be offered critiques and ways that I can get stronger as a dancer. And so that felt safe for me. And then the actual competition started with a little bit more advanced people, people in different bronze levels than I am, like the bronze 3s, bronze 4s, and things like that could do actual competition where they could compete for first place, second place, and so on. So as I was watching them, I just kept observing everybody in the room, observing how I felt, and still dancing every chance I got during the social dance times because they'll do so many heats and then they'll take a break and do some social dancing. And then they took a break for dinner and then they had social dancing and then they had some more heats. It was just so fun. So here are my top 5 takeaways. And the first one that I'm gonna share is this. Number 1, there's always more if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone to go see it. One of the things that I was thinking to myself as I pulled up to the hotel, I'm not even kidding. I was thinking to myself, "I'm so glad I'm gonna go have this experience. I'm going to go have the time of my life, and then I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit dancing because I will have checked this off my list, and then I'll go do something else." Well, let me tell you that when I got there and I got in the room and I met people from Portland and Clackamas and Boise was there too, which was very cool. Um, let's see, what am I missing? Vancouver and I Dance for Beaverton. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much bigger. It's so much bigger than I thought." And I realized there's so much more I can do, and there's so much better I can be, and the support is there, and the structure is there, and the strategy is there, and the fun is there for me to continue on this journey to dancing. And it just feels so fun. And if I wouldn't have gone to the showcase, I would have told myself that I had gone far enough and that, now it's time to go do something else. But I was so energized by the whole experience that I know for sure I'm going to dance at least one or two more showcases. And I'm even considering going to dance in a competition in Mexico next January because I had that much fun at this showcase. It was, it was wonderful. So that takeaway was there's always more if you're willing to go out of your comfort zone to see it. So when you think that you've achieved the thing and you start to feel like, "Oh gosh, am I bored?" Which as a manifesting generator, that is how I roll. Like I need a little bit of novelty. And so I need to find ways to create that novelty in my system or else I just move on to something else. So if that's you, then this might be an interesting thing for you to consider. How can you get out of your comfort zone to go more deeply into the things you already love? It's a cool question. Here's number 2. It doesn't matter how good you are. What matters is how much fun you have. So here's the thing. I sat by this couple who Coincidentally, they also are transplants from Boise, and their names were Sandy and Pete. Now, Sandy and Pete started dancing as they were getting ready to think about retiring. So they thought, well, let's go dance. It can be some physical activity that we can do and fun together. And they loved it so much that they kept dancing and they surprised their kids at their kids' wedding by knowing how to do all the dances. Sandy and Pete had so much fun on the dance floor. It was contagious. Were they the best dancers out there? No, but you know what? They were the place where my eye kept being drawn because they were smiling, they were talking to each other, they were having a good time. They were so delightful to watch. And as the evening went on, I noticed that my eye continued to be drawn toward the people that were having the most fun. They were doing their best, but they weren't taking it so seriously that they were losing sight of the fun. The fun makes people want to cheer for you. It's really, really attractive when you're having fun. Now, here's the other thing I noticed. If you look scared and you feel that fear and you start to show that fear, people freeze around you. So if you start to look scared, people are going to reflect that fear back to you. That's what that big wave of fear feels like. Like for me in my system, if I start to feel fear and then someone reflects it back to me, it hits me almost like a wave. Usually I feel it in my belly where it's like whoosh, I feel the fear. The same thing is true if you show that fear, people are going to reflect it. But if you show, hey, I'm a little anxious, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to have fun, people reflect that back to you. And then the fun amplifies. You know what responds to fun? Abundance, opportunity, joy. All of it responds to fun, which leads me to number two. Joy fuels. That's right. Joy fuels. So my teacher, his name is Dior. He is so joy filled. I don't think there was anyone at that competition that was having more fun and more joyful than Dior. He yells, he screams, he dances, he yells and screams while he dances. He is having the best time. Like he's never still. He's always dancing around. He's always just having a great time. He's got a big smile on his face. And you know what? Every single person that comes in contact with him has the same response. And it's so magnetic that he had people cheering for me. he would he would like throw his head back as we got settled on the dance floor. He'd offer me his frame and I would connect with his frame, meaning I would put my hand in his hand and my arm on his shoulder and we would get ready to do the dance and he'd throw his head back and he's like, "Brenda!" And then by the end of the night, people were cheering for me simply because of his joy and his enthusiasm. And you know what? He was the teacher for the other people at the table where I sat, and they felt the same way about him. There's something so lovable, so magnetic, so charismatic about joy, that joy fuels, which leads me to number three or number four. I don't know what number. You probably are keeping track. This is not my strength. Here's the thing, no matter how good you are at whatever it is that you're good at, there's somebody else who's better right next door to you. And if you let that stop you from being the very best version of you, you're going to be missing out on a lot of things. So, the very best dancers at this whole showcase were a professional dance pair named Nadia and Josh, and they were phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. They put on four different little mini shows for us, taking up the entire dance floor. And, I was thinking to myself, gosh, I wonder, what it takes to be like the best. And so I would see dancer after dancer come on thinking, oh my gosh, they're so accomplished. Oh my gosh, they're so accomplished. Oh my gosh, they're so accomplished. And the thing is, if we're not willing to let someone be better than us and to learn from them, to be inspired by them, to use that as fuel for our evolution, instead, if we were to quit and think, oh gosh, I'm not as good at them or as good as them, we would be missing out on so much. So, invitation to really lean into this and just accept it. I had a mentor years ago. His name was Dave. He was a band director. I was the choir director in Sturgis, South Dakota. And Dave said to me, I was a pretty new teacher, like second year teacher. He said, it doesn't matter how good you get, within 50 miles, there's somebody better than you. And I remember thinking at the time, is that true forever? And does it matter which place you are that it could be true, the 50-mile thing? And so I've leaned into that curiosity over the years, and I have found it to be true. And that if we embrace it and we make friends with those people and we use them to fuel us, learning from them and becoming friends with them, that there's so much possibility there. There's so much richness because the truth is you're better than somebody else. And there's somebody who's looking up to you right now, wanting to kind of draft on the things that you're creating. And so invitation to also embrace those people with kindness, too, because we're all trying to learn from each other. And it's so exciting and so beautiful just to think about the patterns that we're creating, the patterns of possibility as we each lean more deeply into our own evolution. Which leads me to the last thing. People will mirror back to you your belief. When you believe in yourself, people believe in you. And the opposite is also true. If you're not believing in yourself, people can feel it energetically. And you know what? They'll reflect it back to you. And that is what happens sometimes when we get ready to go for our dreams and we're just a little bit wobbly on whether or not we want to really lean into that dream. When we share it with our friends and family, if there's any wobble, they will reflect the wobble because they love us. They don't want us to get hurt. So the thing that we need to do is to be rock solid in our belief. Like create that certainty. How do you do that? Well, you decide. Seriously. I mean, I'm making it sound simple, but it really is simple. It is a decision. Deciding I'm going to believe in myself. So I made the decision that even though I'm a really new dancer, I mean, I'm not new to dancing, but I'm new to this kind of dancing and I'm brand new to partner dancing. Um, I decided I was going to do the best that I could and have the most fun possible. I went out there and I had a great time. I was laughing. My face hurt from smiling. It felt so good. And you know what? People were cheering for me. Like people I don't even know were cheering for me, mostly because Dior kept saying, Brenda, every time I danced. So people learned my name really quickly. But people were cheering for me because I believed in myself. Did I think I was the best person on the floor? No, not by a long shot. I knew I wasn't the best one on the floor, but I also had a ball. I had so much fun. I knew that if I got out there and I just danced and I just like felt the music in my body and I responded to Dior, and I knew that I was going to be taken care of. I knew that I had the skills at least to get through the dance. I knew I wasn't going to necessarily like win an award, but I wasn't competing for an award. All I wanted to do was to dance. And that leads me to one last thing, which is when we talk about feminine energy and masculine energy, we each have both inside us. We each have a masculine part of ourselves and a feminine part of ourselves. And if I were to break it down into really simple terms, the masculine part of us is the doing part, and the feminine part is the being part or the receiving. So, one of the things that I'm really learning from this style of dancing with a partner, where I'm dancing salsa, bachata, nightclub two-step, or now I'm learning some new things. I'm learning the cha-cha, and I'm going to be learning the rumba as well. Um, but I'm learning that I have to, as the follow, because that's my role in this dance partnership. There's a lead and there's a follow. I have to respond to the cues of my lead, meaning I have to lean into a more feminine side of myself. I'm not making decisions around where I'm going to turn. I'm responding to the cues that I'm feeling from my lead, whether that's Dior or another dance partner or another dance teacher. I need to respond to that because that's my role as a follow. So it's been really, really good for me personally to lean into that more feminine energy where I'm not making the decisions. I'm responding, I'm being, I'm receiving the cues. Oh my gosh, it's just so good. If you ever get the chance to try it, I highly recommend trying it. It is so fun. You can literally dance away all your troubles. It doesn't matter what has happened in the day. It doesn't matter if I'm happy, sad, upset, mad. I always leave my dance lesson feeling better. I feel smiley and joyful and just like happy to have been there, happy to have danced. It's so much fun. I laugh all the time. The studio that I go to is just absolutely wonderful. I go to the Arthur Murray Beaverton studio where Shannon and Tom are the owners, and they have an amazing staff there. And you know what I know about Arthur Murray is that they are consistent. And so if you want to go check out an Arthur Murray dance studio near you, I invite you to go do it. By the way, I have no affiliation with Arthur Murray. I have nothing to gain from sending you over to Arthur Murray, except maybe I'll run into you at one of the dance showcases or the dance competitions. I really, really encourage you, whether you're a dancer or not, to lean into the takeaways from this, which are there's always further to go if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone to go see it. Number two, it doesn't matter how good you are, it matters how much fun you have. Number three, no matter how good you are, there's always someone better than you. Number four, joy fuels. Number five, people will mirror your belief in you. And I think that that is the key, right? People will mirror your belief in you, which is such an important thing. If we have any doubt, any wobble, we are getting in our own way. And I just want to offer something to you. Maybe it'll feel aligned, maybe it won't. I'm hosting an in person retreat April 1st through 5th called Yes Academy, The Retreat. And at this retreat, one of the things we're going to be doing is leading you to that sense of certainty where you can eliminate any wobble around believing what it is you really want to accomplish in this life. When we remove the wobble and we create the certainty, healing your nervous system along the way, I tell you what, the sky's the limit. And by the way, we are going salsa dancing at the retreat to my studio. So you can meet some of the people that I've talked about and actually experience it for yourself. So if you want to learn more about the retreat, invitation to click the link in the show notes or go to brendawinkle.com/retreat. There's a few spots left, and we're going to be in beautiful Beaverton, Oregon, which is a suburb of Portland, in an expansive property with orchards and a covered patio in case it rains. And it's just going to be a really magical time. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life. I am so grateful to have you along on this journey. I have some really exciting and wonderful things coming up. Make sure that you have subscribed to the podcast if you enjoyed this. Next week's episode is with Anat Perry. She is an inner child healing expert, and she has so much wisdom to share. I cannot wait for that interview to go live. And be sure you check it out every Friday. I'm going in with a little minisode every Friday with a tip or trick that you can apply to your life to get you really to your yes filled life, which is that life where you're living into the total empowerment of your heart and your dreams. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this, would you please share it with a friend? Bye for now. Until next time.